In this tutorial, you'll learn how to fold the hybrid square twist. This is specifically a hybrid between the closed and the open square twists. And this tutorial is part of the Summer of Twist series. So if you're not familiar with closed and open square twists, I do recommend going back in the series and practicing those twists before this one. You can also sign up for weekly reminders as these videos are coming out, or afterwards if you want to work through them on a weekly pace at training.gatheringfolds.com/summer. So let's dive into this hybrid square twist, which we will fold without pre-creasing. And then we'll look at the crease pattern, both front and back. And if you stick around to the very end, there will be a link to a longer tutorial where you can practice this twist in the context of a tessellation pattern, so a pattern with repeats. So first off, I'm going to mark one mountain fold straight through the center of my grid. I'm using an 8-fold square grid, which means I have 8 divisions left and right and top and bottom. And then I'm going to mark, so there's my center. I'm going to go 1 grid spacing above and draw a line out to the right. And from that center point, I'm going to draw a line out to the left. These are my mountain folds for the twist, and this is what I'm looking for in my mind as I'm folding the twist in a larger pattern. So what I want to know is which of my grid directions is the mountain fold that goes all the way through on the same grid line, and which direction do I have a 1 spacing gap. Now, given that gap, I can place my valley folds because I don't want the valley running into the opposite side mountain. I want it to be on the other side of this mountain fold. And I'm going to be rotationally symmetric, or rotationally placing these valley folds always on the same side if you're viewing the pleat going off to the right. So if it's going off to the right, the valley is above. With that set up, I can lift my mountain folds and let them fall over on top of the valley folds. And this doesn't want to fall over right away. This doesn't want to squash just like this. That's why I'm going to take this little knobby bit. So notice I kept my through line vertical. I'm letting things fall over, and I'm taking this little bit on my right, which is identical to this bit on my left. I'm going to work on my right hand because I'm right-handed, and I'm going to flatten it so that these diagonal folds go straight to the next grid intersection. This is the closed part of the closed open hybrid square twist. And I can use my bone folder to smooth things out. And I will say that the paper that you use does make a significant difference here. I'm using Skytone, and you can find a link to where to get that in the description. And another thing you can do to make this a little easier, you can see I've let this flap going off to the right kind of float up. It's not down with the valley fully folded like these other 3 pleats are. Now that I've got that corner in place, and one more note on that, we can flip over and do a little bit of pushing and pulling to get that fold to the grid intersection that we want, if it's not going right there on its own. And so now it's time to flatten that 4th pleat. I'm going to push this out and down, and I'm pushing specifically 2 spaces away from the intersection of mountains. So we had drawn on this valley and had it hitting here, but I'm pushing 1 spacing further out, which is unusual for twists. And so I'm making sure first that this corner is going to be a corner in the squashed shape on top, which, by the way, is a closed right triangle if it's all on its own. And making sure that this corner and this corner also end up at grid intersections, mostly by making sure this one is, then holding that pleat flat and spreading out into this 45-degree corner. So now that we've squashed this twist, it's time to look at the crease pattern, which is not exactly what you would predict from seeing these mountains and valleys come in. So here we've erased the extensions of these mountains that go into the twist. We've also erased this 1 grid spacing bit of valley. And we've added a bit of valley in the middle of the twist and this 1 diagonal fold coming out. And we have our new mountain folds. So these 2 are sides, 2 sides of a closed square twist. And then we've got a valley for the center. And these 2 sides are sides of an open square twist with a mountain for the center. So when we're hybridizing square twists, we're going to have half of 1 twist, and this will be the smaller twist with a valley going through the middle, and then half of the bigger twist with a mountain in the middle, and then those 2 chunks are connected by a valley over on the edge. So that's the crease pattern for the front. Let's flip over and see the crease pattern from the back, which I'll often use these hybrid square twists on both sides of the paper when I'm designing origami tessellations. So it's important to be able to recognize this twist from either side of the paper and then to say, well, this is how it's showing up in the crease pattern. That means that I need to flip the paper over in order to fold it. So here, like I was pointing out on the front side, instead of having 1 central polygon, we have kind of these 2 triangles, and only one of them is the same fold type all the way around. So if we want to see kind of a folding simulation of this from this side, it's twisting up and in. But we're always going to fold these from the side where these edges of the square twists are mountains. So you can see this square twist is folding up and rotating as it goes around. It leaves this single grid spacing slit on the back. And that's a function of it being a hybrid between the closed, which is all the way closed, and the open, which has 1 grid spacing separation between these pleats, leaving on opposite sides. And you'll see that pattern continue of like the properties of the closed, the properties of the open. The next hybrid twist that we'll do in this series will be closed and double open. So that will have some slightly different properties on the back. And these hybrid twists are really useful for when you want to have a position of two-fold rotational symmetry relative to the pleats in a square twisting shape. So it's really hard to have positions of two-fold rotational symmetry on square grids unless you use a hybrid twist. So that's what this twist enables us to do. So definitely check out that longer tutorial if you're interested in learning more about this twist. And this twist shows up in a couple of my courses in Tessellations by Tiles and Advanced Twist Techniques. So check out the links in the description for those if you'd like to learn more. And there's also the rest of the Summer of Twist playlist if you'd like to learn more advanced origami tessellation techniques. So happy folding, and I'll see you in the next video.